Hey everyone, Jesse here, just making another video for you today. This is a tutorial video on using split tone versus white balance when you want to add color to your image. So if you're new to this channel, I typically just create tutorials on Lightroom and Photoshop, but I'll also do vlogs or whatever else kind of comes up as I'm shooting. I've recently switched to the Fuji X-T2, so I'm going to do a video on this in the near future. But today we're just going to simply do a Lightroom quick tutorial, and this will help you make your images look from an amateur level to a professional level in a click of a button, basically. So the reason why I wanted to do this video, I come across a lot of photographers on Instagram, and you know when they're using white balance to add warmth opposed to doing split toning, because basically their image will look super washed out and flat. And this is a simple trick. It's not like this hidden trick, but it's simple and it will make your images look way better. So today we're going to use an example of this photo that I shot for Woodwatch of myself. So typically if I am going to start editing my photo, I'll always switch my white balance to as shot. And then you can just kind of adjust it from there to add your warmth. So for me, like, that's pretty good. The skin tones look natural, which is important. So there's two ways to add split toning and add colors to your highlights and shadows and midtones. You can do it through the tone curve, which is a little bit more complicated, and you can quickly ruin your image, so I'm not going to go that route with you. But if you are using Lightroom, you just click on split toning. So here you'll see your highlights, and then you'll see your shadows. So it's quite simple. What I typically do is I put it to the full saturation to try and find the color that I'm looking for. So I kind of want to add yellows in the highlights. So something like that. So before we get started, actually, I'm going to show you why you should be doing split toning instead of white balance. So say most photographers, they want their images to look really warm. So they'll probably crank their white balance to something like this. And as you can see, there's this yellow. There's this yellow in all of the shadows, the highlight, the midtones, just everything looks flat, and that's what you want to avoid. Okay. Alright, so back to split toning. So basically you want to just choose your color. So we're going to go probably something like that. And then you just want to decrease your saturation to whatever you're happy with. So for me, it's always less is better. So I try to keep it around between 5% and usually like 15%. I don't really go much higher than that. Okay, so that's basically it for the highlight. It's not a huge difference, actually. You can't really notice much. But we'll also add some color in the shadows. So you can kind of get a little crazy with it, but you still want to make it look natural. So I'm going to try to put a little bit more orange in the shadows. So same thing. So maybe actually it will go with a little bit more on the red side in the shadows. Something like that. And then here is the balance, so you can actually adjust if you want the color to be more in the highlights versus the shadows. You can kind of play around with the balance. You can even like add blue to your highlights instead of the yellow to kind of cool down your skin tones, cool down the highlights if you have snow, all that stuff. But we're probably going to keep the highlights somewhere like that. So that's with the split toning, that's without. Split toning, that's without. And then you can just kind of correct your image from there. So I haven't done any sort of correction, but add some contrast, decrease the highlights, increase the shadows. See, my picture actually looks a little bit too yellow. But then you can kind of play around with your saturation a little bit. So we can see here, that's not the before. So we can see that's basically the before and then the after. So it's still a little yellow, so then we can kind of fix the white balance from here again. So I'm actually going to cool down my white balance now that we've kind of messed with the split toning. And we could probably actually put it back to as shot and just warm it up slightly. So that's way better. And if I go back here to the split toning and turn it off, you can see it's more balanced. It's not super washed out. So again, I'll turn off split toning and just play with the white balance. And it's really hard to have control over the shadows and all the tones when you're just playing around with the white balance. Alright, and that's a super easy way to edit your photos too, by the way. I mean, this took me, what, like 5 minutes? So yeah, so that's basically it. So quick little hack for you all. If you're already using split toning, then that's great. Just keep using it. If you're new to photography or photo editing, or you just don't really use Lightroom that often, this is a very simple trick for you. This picture was basically straight out of camera, and it took literally 2 seconds to create an edit that I'd be super happy with, and I'd probably post on Instagram. So that's about it. Stay tuned for the next video. We are going to be talking about the XC2. I'm going to review it and my thoughts on switching from Canon over to Fuji. This is a crop sensor mirrorless camera, so it's a very interesting switch, but I'm super happy with it. And I'll also do a video about my 2020 goals and did I meet my 2019 goals. Alright, so thanks for watching. If you've watched this entire video, then that means you're somewhat interested in what I'm posting, so please subscribe to my channel, like the video, and please comment if you do use split toning and if you use white balance. I'm curious to hear your opinions on the two. Alright, so peace out, thanks for watching.